Wakanda is often described as the most technologically advanced nation on Earth. But here's the thing, technology alone doesn't make a country untouchable, because hidden behind the Black Panther, the vibranium, and the futuristic cities is something even more impressive. A military so layered, so specialized, and so absurdly powerful that it has repeatedly fought off everything from invading nations to alien armadas and even the forces of Doom himself. The infantry grunts. You can't have a military without the grunts, and the quality of its infantry defines every army. They might be basic infantry in Wakanda, but they're actually geared up better than almost any other country's elite special forces. The classic Wakandan combat strategy is a lot like what we see in the movies, blending a mix of tribal warfare with high-tech weaponry like energy spears, hovercrafts, and in the comics, robotic prowler mechs. In the comic lore, prowlers are giant automated mechanical war beasts shaped like massive panthers. They act as Wakanda's heavy cavalry, but they're also pretty much a last resort, and the only one who has their access codes is the royal family. You'd never see infantrymen commanding them. Once deployed, the prowlers tend to fight alongside the infantry. Despite the overall quality of the Wakandan infantry, it actually doesn't fare well against real threats. For example, there was that time Dr. Doom invaded Wakanda and completely outmatched Wakanda's grunts with Latvian robots. The standard troops took massive casualties, and even the elite Dora Milaje are getting overwhelmed. But it also comes with a job. The basic infantry's role is to handle the border patrols, be the city's primary defense, and form the battle lines on the front. Wakanda also has its own air force known as the Wakandan Air Guard, and these guys get some solid job benefits, like advanced Wakandan sky bikes that hover and shoot energy blasts, and massive Quinjet-style ships. And then you also have their navy. They utilize highly advanced aquatic equipment and stealth ships, and they're primarily made up of the River Tribe. Despite the tribal nature of Wakanda, their military is actually pretty advanced. The Doom incident is a rare Wakandan L, but they have some really impressive feats too. Take the Secret Invasion event, where the Skrull Empire invaded Earth. They sent a massive armada to Wakanda, deploying insanely powerful Super Skrulls. They fought these guys in the trenches, and not only did they win, but, well, just look at the aftermath. It was completely brutal. And as we keep going up, the military might of Wakanda keeps getting more and more impressive. Let's take a look at their elites next. Elite Tribal Warriors. Here's where it starts to get a bit insane. Let's take the Border Tribe, for example. You know, those guys that ride rhinoceroses into battle. That's not even the most dangerous part about them. In the Art of Black Panther companion book, it was actually revealed that there's a special tradition involving the rhinos. You see, every year in a special ceremony, young rhino calves choose a human Wakandan child with whom to bond, which is considered a massive honor. That's what makes their cavalry so destructive. There's an intense synergy between the warrior and his steed. And that's just one of their tribes. Wakanda also happens to be surrounded by a lot of bodies of water, which the River Tribe can literally shut down at various points with large vibranium dams, if the royal family commands it. Although I'm pretty sure that's mostly a movie thing, but feel free to fact check me on this. They wear armor reinforced with crocodile leather, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's actually inspired by the real-world Sodi and Mercy tribes of Ethiopia. The River Tribe's greatest strength isn't actually high-tech vibranium equipment or something, it's the fact that they can control the environment around them. When you can weaponize a massive river and flood out invading armies, you might not really need a sonic blaster. Then you have groups like the Lion Cult. While the Panther Cult dominates modern Wakanda, the Lion Cult represents one of their greatest rivals. What makes them fascinating is how their path to power is pretty different. See, these guys don't rely on something like the heart-shaped herb. Instead, they're worshippers of the lion goddess Sekhmet, who actually physically manifests and alters the physiology of her avatars. This lets them have all the usual superpowered benefits like super speed, strength, and insane durability without needing a vibranium suit or nature's finest steroid. They're terrifyingly powerful. And they're not the only ones. Wakanda has its very own rednecks too, the Dasturi, a xenophobic, ultra-conservative militant faction that actually worked with Doom once to overthrow T'Challa and usurp the throne. They fundamentally believe Wakanda should forever be isolated, never opening its borders to the outside world or having any kind of connection with it. It's actually such a huge bummer that the many tribes of Wakanda never get explored too much in the movies. They always portrayed the Panther Cult as being the dominant one, but their rivals, the White Gorilla Cult from the comics, were never introduced. They were instead reimagined as the Jabari tribe. And man, these guys hated each other. But let's talk about their powers. The White Gorilla was, at many points, a dead-even match for the Black Panther, and to gain their equivalent of the heart-shaped herb power-up, they actually have to track down one of the incredibly rare sacred mystical white gorillas. They then have to bathe in the gorilla's blood and consume its flesh. Gruesome, I know, but doing this gives them extreme strength and power. And fun fact, M'Baku actually went through this entire problem. Without the panther habit, M'Baku actually has a very real shot at beating T'Challa in a fight. He's even fought Captain America and walked away completely fine. They're the ultimate counter to Wakanda's tech-dependent military. These guys rely on blood magic, raw muscle, and old-school combat. The War Dogs. Since we're already talking about Wakanda's military, we need to talk about the guys they only call when things have gone completely off the rails. The Hatu Sarase, better known as the Dogs of War. And trust me, these guys make the border tribe look friendly. See, the Dogs of War were originally created by King T'Chaka to handle all the jobs Wakanda couldn't publicly admit to doing. Assassinations, espionage, political disappearances. If it was morally questionable but necessary for national security, chances are these guys were involved. What's even crazier is who ended up leading them. A white orphan named Hunter survived a plane crash near Wakanda and was adopted by the royal family. Since he could never inherit the throne, Hunter dedicated his entire life to proving his loyalty to the nation. He eventually became the White Wolf and transformed the Dogs of War into arguably the most feared intelligence network in Africa. Their equipment is honestly ridiculous. While most Wakandan soldiers run around with spears and energy shields, the Dogs of War prefer a much less subtle approach. They wear white vibranium suits that act as the inverse of the Black Panther's armor, absorbing kinetic energy while also incorporating advanced cloaking technology. In other words, they're heavily armed assassins that can literally disappear. And unlike most Wakandan forces, they aren't above using firearms, explosives, or whatever else gets the job done. Fair fights aren't really part of their philosophy. In fact, T'Challa was so disturbed by their methods that he eventually disbanded the entire organization. The problem was that the Dogs of War didn't really stop existing. They simply went underground and continued operating as an elite shadow force beyond Wakanda's borders, and eventually they decided to take their shot against the Black Panther himself. The scary part is that they can actually back up the hype, because they utilize technology comparable to the King's own armor. Hunter and his operatives have repeatedly pushed Black Panther himself to his limits in combat. And they've also dealt with threats from space, too. In one run, there was this entire alien invasion from a race known as the Katati. They basically tried to take over Earth, but the Black Panther led his men against them, and at the front lines by his side were the War Dogs. Dora Milaje. When the Dora Milaje were first introduced in Christopher Priest's Black Panther run, they weren't just bodyguards. They were part of a political strategy designed to keep Wakanda united. Every major tribe would send one of its most exceptional daughters to serve alongside the king. On paper, they were companions and royal guards. In reality, they were living symbols of trust between the throne and the tribes. If your daughter is standing beside the king every day, you're probably thinking twice before starting a rebellion. But over the years, their role evolved into something far deadlier. What makes the Dora Milaje so scary is that unlike Black Panther, they don't have a magic herb giving them superhuman abilities. Everything they do comes from relentless training, discipline, and some of the best equipment Wakanda can manufacture. Their vibranium armor is lightweight and incredibly durable, while their signature spears can function as both melee weapons and advanced energy weapons depending on the situation. What's really impressive, though, is how they operate as a unit. Most elite fighters are dangerous because of individual skill. The Dora Milaje are dangerous because they fight like a single organism. Every movement, every strike, every formation is made with the intention of moving as one unit. That's why they have repeatedly found themselves battling threats far beyond normal human opponents. Whether it's superpowered invaders, enhanced soldiers, or alien armies, the Dora Milaje have a habit of surviving encounters they realistically should not. Midnight Angels. The Midnight Angels first emerged during the Doom War era, when Wakanda found itself facing a problem that even its best soldiers struggled to solve. Dr. Doom has seized control of Wakanda's vibranium and deployed armies of advanced Doombots, turning the country's greatest resource against itself. Conventional forces could still fight back, but the battlefield was becoming increasingly stacked in favor of heavily armored machines. Designed as state-of-the-art Wakandan equipment, the suits dramatically enhanced what were already some of the deadliest fighters on Earth. Suddenly, warriors who had spent their entire lives mastering combat were flying through the air in powered vibranium armor, equipped with energy weapons, defensive shielding, and enough firepower to challenge threats far above the level of ordinary soldiers. The real appeal of the Midnight Angels isn't just the technology, it's who ends up wearing it. A few years later, during Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther run, the armor becomes closely associated with Ayo and Aneka, two Dora Milaje who become increasingly frustrated with the failures of Wakanda's political system. When Aneka kills a local chieftain who had been abusing women under his authority, Wakandan law demands punishment. Rather than accept her partner's fate, Ayo breaks into the royal armory, steals a pair of Midnight Angel suits, and stages one of the most audacious prison breaks in modern Wakandan history. From that point forward, the Midnight Angels stop acting as royal agents and start operating as independent vigilantes. Instead of protecting the throne, they're protecting ordinary Wakandans who have been ignored by it. Because unlike most rebels, these aren't inexperienced revolutionaries. These are Dora Milaje veterans wearing some of the most advanced armor Wakanda has ever produced. It's basically the closest thing Wakanda has to its own version of Iron Man armor. The result is a force that can hit harder than conventional infantry, move faster than most opponents can react, and operate almost entirely on its own terms. At that point, you're not really dealing with soldiers anymore. You're dealing with a pair of flying vibranium-powered one-woman armies. The Black Panthers. And finally, we've reached the top of the mountain, the Black Panther. This is what happens when Wakanda takes its greatest warrior and enhances them with centuries of tradition, cutting-edge technology, and powers that border on the supernatural. Getting there isn't easy either. Before someone can even claim the mantle, they have to prove themselves through ritual combat and earn the right to represent the Panther God. But the real game changer is the heart-shaped herb. Thanks to its unique connection to vibranium, the herb grants its user enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, stamina, and senses far beyond those of a normal human. The Panther habit is one of the most advanced pieces of technology on Earth. I'm pretty sure that you guys are already familiar with what it can do, but just in case, the suit lets you absorb and redirect kinetic energy. Ever wonder what that purple glow around T'Challa is? Why he seems to charge up? It's the suit at work. So now you've got a warrior with superhuman physical abilities wearing armor that's almost impossible to put down. That is why Black Panthers routinely go toe-to-toe with some of Marvel's strongest heroes and villains. But as powerful as the standard Black Panther is, T'Challa eventually reached an entirely different level. To understand that story, we have to go beneath Wakanda itself. Deep below the Golden City lies the necropolis, the sacred resting place of generations of Black Panthers. During Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four and New Avengers era, T'Challa entered this ancient city and transformed into something never seen before. Rather than simply becoming another Black Panther, he was given the title of King of the Dead. T'Challa gained a unique connection to the spirits and memories of the Panthers who came before him. Instead of relying solely on his own experience, he could draw upon the knowledge, wisdom, and strategies accumulated by countless generations of Wakandan rulers. Imagine walking into battle with thousands of years of military experience living inside your head, and he put that power to good use. During the conflicts surrounding the Incursions and Infinity era, T'Challa stood at the center of Wakanda's defense against threats that could level entire nations. Whether he was coordinating armies, outsmarting cosmic invaders, or throwing himself directly into the fighting, he operated on a completely different level from even Wakanda's other elite warriors. Wakanda somehow has it all. Numbers, technology, superpowers, even their lowest-ranking soldiers are some country's dream Black Ops squad, and standing above all of them is the Black Panther, a warrior empowered by centuries of history and tradition.